increase from the revised target. Of these, tax revenues are the largest share, projected at 6.203 trillion, representing a 43.3% increase from the revised estimate. The committee notes that this growth is largely expected to come from the major tax heads such as payee, VAT, corporate tax, which together accounted for 72% of the total tax revenue. Mr. Speaker, sir, non-tax revenue continue to contribute minimally to revenues. It is projected at 250.5 billion, representing only 3.9% of all the domestic revenues. Mr. Speaker, the committee discussed a number of suggestions with regard to revenue generation, and the committee's view is that sustainable revenue growth must come from expanding the tax base rather than repeatedly taxing the very same taxpayers. The government should therefore focus on bringing in more individuals and more businesses into the formal tax system, and tackling informality in our economy should be a priority. The untaxed rely on our loose enforcement of tax laws in order to evade tax. On non-tax revenue, the committee believes that there is potential to increase this significantly, and hence we make the following suggestions. Departmental fees. The committee urges the government to review departmental fees that have remained unchanged for many years, as these represent an important but underutilized source of revenue. To date, someone with a 300 million kwacha Toyota VXR pays 36,000 kwacha per year for a certificate of fitness. Smaller cars are pegged at 30,000 kwacha per year certificate of fitness. The committee reiterates its position that taxation must be progressive to ensure fairness and economic balance. A progressive tax system asks those with greater financial capacity to contribute a larger share whilst protecting the lower income households from disproportionate burden. Parastatal dividends. The committee stresses the need to improve the financial performance of parastatal institutions through stronger governance and operational efficiency and cost-effective pricing. If you look at the travel budget for some of these parastatals and compare with the dividends they declare at the end of the year, you would know that we lack seriousness in these institutions. Toll gates. In order to improve revenue mobilization for infrastructure development, the committee recommends expansion of the toll gate network along all high traffic corridors. For comparison's sake, Zambia has 38 toll gates, 27 inland and 11 on ports of entry like airports. Here we have 3 or 4 at most. That said, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to zero in on the surcharges that have been introduced on seed importation particularly. The committee understands that this has been introduced to protect local producers, and it is in full support. However, the committee also notes that the government has allocated 60 billion to support local seed production in this budget. It is the committee's view that since farmers still need seed for both winter cropping and the next season, the committee considers the measure premature, as it may increase seed prices before domestic production capacity expands sufficiently to meet demand. It is therefore the view of the committee that this measure be delayed to next year, when local seed production would have led to an increased seed supply on the market. Otherwise, seed prices are going to be above reach for most of our farmers. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee also observes that there is need for a delicate balance between taxing financial or digital transactions and achieving financial inclusion. We should not reach a point where someone is tempted to start keeping his or her money under the pillow instead of keeping the money at the bank. In all these efforts, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to ensure that taxation remains fair, progressive, and does not place excessive burden on a small segment of Malawians, especially the low-income bracket. I will now discuss the total projected expenditure for 2026-2027. Mr. Speaker, sir, expenditure in the 2026-2027 proposed budget continues its upward trajectory, and the proposed budget projects total expenditure of 10.978 trillion, representing 27.7% increase from the revised estimate of 8.589 trillion in 2025-2026. Positively, revenues are projected to grow significantly higher than expenditure, which signals a narrowing fiscal gap and an important step towards restoring fiscal discipline. This outcome depends heavily on the realization of the ambitious revenue and growth projections underpinning the budget. Should these projections fall short, the fiscal position could deteriorate and result in higher than anticipated deficits, and the committee therefore stresses the importance of strict expenditure controls, effective revenue mobilization, and investment in growth-enhanced investments. On recruitment expenditure, the budget projects spending of 7.581 trillion, amounting to 69% of the total budget. Notably, the committee welcomes the projected positive primary balance of 302.0 billion compared to the historic trend of persistent negative primary balances. A primary balance, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the difference between the government revenue and government spending that excludes interest payments on existing debts. If the primary balance is negative, it simply means government will have to be borrowing in order to meet debt interests. If positive, it means government is generating enough revenue to partly start covering the debt charges. This, therefore, is commendable development, and if sustained, this trend would strengthen fiscal discipline, reduce reliance on borrowing for operational spending, and gradually create fiscal space for development and essential public services. Despite this positive signal, mandatory expenditures continue to consume a significant share of government's revenue. And Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to briefly comment on few key recurrent expenditure lines: wages and salaries. Mr. Speaker, sir, the allocation to wages and salaries has increased by 17.9%, largely to cater for possible salary adjustments and selected recruitments. The committee appreciates government's effort to manage the wage bill, including freezing of non-essential recruitments, and hope that the ongoing salary negotiations have been adequately provided for to avoid significant upward revisions during the mid-term review. Public debt. Mr. Speaker, sir, the rapid growth in public debt interest payments remain a major concern to the committee. Interest payments are projected to rise to 2.793 trillion in the 2026-2027 financial year, of which 97.7% is attributed to domestic debt. These payments alone are expected to consume approximately 43% of total domestic revenues, thereby significantly constraining the fiscal space available for development spending and essential public services. Mr. Speaker, sir, Malawi's total public debt stock stood at 24.3 trillion, equivalent to 93.2% of our GDP as of December 2025, with domestic debt accounting for 65.8% of the total. On a per capita basis, this debt stock translates to roughly 1.1 million to 1.2 million per Malawian, even amenabadwalero in our hospitals. The committee therefore emphasizes the urgent need to expedite the ongoing debt restructuring or reprofiling through a consultative and transparent approach, ensuring that the outcome restores fiscal sustainability whilst at the same time safeguarding the stability of the financial institutions that hold a significant portion of government securities. On social benefits, Mr. Speaker, sir, allocations to social benefits have declined by 31.8%, mainly due to the reduction in the Farm Input Subsidy Program, FISIP, from 214.1 billion in the revised of 2025-2026 budget to 111.25 billion in the 26-27. Considering that beneficiaries were expanded to 1.1 million households during the mid-year review, the committee seeks clarification on how this reduction will affect the number of beneficiaries under the program and design. The committee reiterates its position that Malawi cannot afford to be a welfare economy. Our fiscal space is too constrained. On development expenditure, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee noted a positive shift towards increased investment with allocations projected to 3.397 trillion, representing a 76% increase from the previous year. This raises the share of development spending to 30.9% of the total budget from 22.4% in the revised budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, a significant portion of this increase is driven by the reformed Constituency Development Fund. As indicated in the Honourable Minister's statement, the reformed CDF will operate under the performance-based framework, where local councils will be accessing funds based on their capacity and performance against agreed indicators. However, the committee is concerned about reports of limited capacity among local councils to absorb and manage these resources effectively. The committee therefore stresses the need for deliberate investment in strengthening the capacity of local councils. Without such improvements, the expanded CDF framework could pose serious fiscal risks. The committee therefore looks forward to the guidelines being formulated, which will be key in assessing the feasibility of the program. Much attention will have to go to the oversight functions, and I believe this House is better placed to do its constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to briefly touch on selected sectors that are critical for driving economic growth and the national development, starting with the agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee notes that the agriculture sector experienced under expenditure in 2025-2026, particularly in development projects, suggesting limited investment in long-term productivity. In the 2026-2027 budget, the sector has been allocated 1.05 trillion, though a large share is donor-funded, and resources for recurrent operations have declined, mainly due to the downscaling of the FISIP program. The committee emphasizes the need to strengthen irrigation, value addition, and structured agricultural markets to improve productivity and resilience. The mining sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, the mining sector grew by 5.3%, but its contribution to the economy remains low at 0.8% of GDP. The 352 billion allocation to the energy and mining sector, together with new institutions such as MAMICO and the Mining and Minerals Regulatory Authority, present an opportunity to unlock the sector's potential. However, this will require strong governance, technical capacity, and supporting infrastructure like roads and energy. Tourism sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, tourism remains an underutilized sector despite Malawi's rich natural attractions, and the 2026-2027 budget allocates 51.2 billion to the tourism and manufacturing sector for tourism promotion, product development, and wildlife conservation. However, the sector continues to face structural challenges such as limited international flights, high travel costs, and inadequate infrastructure, which limits its contribution to economic growth and foreign exchange earnings. The education sector, Mr. Speaker, sir, continues to face challenges in infrastructure investment, and the 2025-2026 expenditure is projected at 1 trillion against the provision of 1.03 trillion. With underspending on development projects and negligible domestic investment. Wages and salaries dominate 68% of the education budget, whilst donor support has sharply declined over the last 3 years. The 26-27 budget allocates 1.28 trillion, largely for recurrent costs, underscoring continued underinvestment in infrastructure. The committee argues that the free primary and secondary education, coupled with population growth, must be supported by significant infrastructure expansion and maintenance. And lastly, on the health sector, Mr. Speaker, sir, the health sector has seen notable achievements, including recruitment of nearly 6,000 health workers and completion of critical projects like the radiotherapy bunkers. The 2026-27 budget allocates 1.02 trillion with funds earmarked for medicines, hospital support, dialysis, ambulances, blood services, and ART co-financing. However, challenges remain, including infrastructure gaps, personnel shortages, and rising demand for services. The committee welcomes the introduction of paying wards and partnerships with medical insurance providers to mobilize additional resources, improve service quality, and reinvest in hospital infrastructure. Allow me, Right Honourable Speaker, to zero in on the key recommendations from the Budget Committee on the 2026-2027 budget. First recommendation: in order to address the persistent trade imbalance, the committee emphasizes the need to move beyond policy rhetoric to decisively start implementing productive and export-oriented reforms. The government should prioritize a few well-resourced flagship initiatives focusing on value addition, agro-processing, and export-oriented manufacturing to expand production, diversify exports, and strengthen foreign exchange earnings. Second recommendation: the committee commends the decline in money supply from the growth of 42.9% in December 2025 to 38.2% in January 2026, reflecting progress in containing excess liquidity. The committee urges that measures be taken to sustain this trend over time. 3. Regarding the surcharge on imported seed, the committee recommends delaying its implementation to next year, allowing local seed production to expand and increase supply on the market. 4. On broadening the revenue base, the committee calls upon government to prioritize bringing in more individuals and businesses to the tax net, especially those in the informal sector and emerging industries such as entertainment and event services. 5. The committee recommends enhancing non-tax revenue through measures such as constructing additional targets, revising departmental fees, and improving parastatal performance via stronger governance and cost-reflective pricing whilst protecting low-income households. 6. On development spending, particularly domestically funded projects, the committee advises the government to prioritize completion of ongoing high-impact projects rather than creating new ones to avoid escalating costs and inefficiencies. 7. Regarding the reformed Constituency Development Fund, the committee urges deliberate efforts to strengthen the capacity of local councils to manage expanded allocations, and we also look forward to the finalization of the guidelines that safeguard public resources and ensure meaningful development outcomes. 8. The government should ensure that any additional revenue during the fiscal year is partly directed towards reducing the budget deficit and public debt rather than automatically increasing expenditure to ease the fiscal pressures and strengthen sustainability. And lastly, on domestic debt, the committee emphasizes the need to expedite debt restructuring through a consultative, open, and transparent process, ensuring fiscal sustainability whilst protecting the stability of financial institutions. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, this budget has one more crisis it must address: corruption, theft, and fraud. Malawi is creating fraudometers at a much faster pace. We have too many supreme leaders of corruption, and this budget needs to consider enough resources towards our anti-corruption, fraud, and money laundering institutions. Our institutions like SCB, Fiscal Police, and FIA must be capacitated to detect, investigate, and decisively deal with all fraudometers or supreme rulers of Katangale. Otherwise, a well-crafted budget like this one may once again go to waste. Mr. Speaker, sir, I now beg to move that this report be agreed to. I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Chair of Budget Committee. Any member of the committee to second the report?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Your constituency, Honorable?
Nkata Bempamba constituency.
Nkata Bempamba, proceed.
Thank you. Nkata Bempamba. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for granting me this opportunity to second the report by Budget and Finance Committee following the analysis we made as a committee of 2026-2027 national budget that was presented in this House by Honorable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me start that the committee appreciate the challenges that Minister of Finance and his team, when they were preparing this budget, they already had the number of cost lines, expenditure lines, which were must that they have to go into the budget. Minister of Finance was preparing this budget as outlined by the chairperson. The difficult microeconomic environment, Malawi continue to face significant structural challenges, and as the chair has put it, like rising debt level, foreign currency shortages. So when they were making this budget, there were various challenges which the Budget and Finance Committee understands. This made, Mr. Speaker, sir, that when he was making this budget, there was a limited amount of money to be allocated to development activities like construction of roads, bridges, and even to public service delivery. When he was making this budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, Minister of Finance had a difficult job because the debt level was high. Amount to pay interest was very high, making it difficult to make a very developmental-related focused budget. Having said these challenges, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee, also as highlighted by the chairperson, made various recommendations. I'll just pick one or two. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that our economy is more of agriculture-based, depend on agriculture. And as the chair has put it, we need to diversify our economy to go in other sectors like mining, which is greatly underfunded. We need also to expand our net. We should not just rely on agriculture only. We should also diversify to tourism. You know, tourism has got potential to bring the forex which this country needs. And as the chair has put it, Mr. Speaker, sir, we need also to focus on diversifying to industrialization, creating more factories, creating more products, which as a country we can start exporting to other countries. Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, we have been relying on agriculture, but the time has come that we start putting in place policies, we start diversifying, we start putting more resources to areas which can supplement, which can move our economy out of the status it is now. All the forums who have been attending, Mr. Speaker, sir, they call our economy as junk economy, which we are not proud of to be called a junk economy. But we can get out of this junk economy if we diversify to the mining, as I've already said, to tourism, as well as to industrialization. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, we know this budget, 2026-2027 budget, for it to be very effective, we continue to recommend to Minister of Finance to put strict measures when it comes to expenditure. So we need strict controls on expenditure. At the same time, we are relying on revenue, which will be collected by Malawi Revenue Authority. And for us to achieve what is in the budget, which means we need to realize the revenue which has been projected in the budget. If we don't realize this revenue, which means 2026-2027 budget will not meet its targets. Mr. Speaker, sir, we also need to push on reducing the level of public debt. The minister is already doing a great job. He started doing debt restructuring, and we are seeing the results. Now the banks, the money which the government borrows from the banking sector is now going down. What it means, Mr. Speaker, sir, the banks have got more money, and now the banks have started channeling this money to the private sector. But we need to follow it up as well, that this private sector should not just be borrowing this money for consumption. We need to engage the private sector when they're borrowing this money to invest much of this money to industrialization, to producing more products which can be exported. We need to diversify to more products which we need to export to other countries. As a country, we struggle with forex just because we are not producing enough. So the time has come, the budget is here, which is encouraging the private sector, which is encouraging the bank, which is encouraging every Malawian to rise up, produce more, to go in the space of industrialization and start exporting. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I close, I second this report by Budget and Finance Committee. It represents what was discussed by all the members of the committee, and everything which has been presented is what was agreed and endorsed by the committee. I second. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nkata Bempamba. Honourable members, I now open the House for debate on the report, if there is any. Then, leader, you might need to move to curtail debate so that we proceed.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the debate on the report be cut out. I beg to move.
Thank you, Leader of the House. Honourable members, we have a motion. Motion as read by the Leader of the House to curtail debate. Those of that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Chairperson, you wind up your...
Right. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Allow me to thank the House for unanimously agreeing with the report. I therefore beg to move that the report be adopted. I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable members, we have a motion. The motion as put by the Chair that the House adopts the report. Therefore, I put the question. Those of that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it and the report is adopted. The chairperson of the cluster committee. Which chair is starting? Honourable members, if the cluster chairs are not ready, we could go to the general debate on the budget. If I allowed the Amaryllis one, everyone would rise. But let's talk about the budget. Huh? Yes, Leader.
Right Honourable Speaker, in view of the fact that chairpersons are not in the House, but also that members appear not ready to start debating the budget today, I therefore beg to move that the House do adjourn early to allow, and then we convene tomorrow. I beg to move.
Thank you, Leader. Honourable members, we have a motion that the House adjourns early in order to give our cluster chairpersons time to come tomorrow morning to continue with the budget process. Those of that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it and the House is adjourned. All right, members, therefore we adjourn to tomorrow 9:30 in the morning. House adjourned.